6 a.m., get up and get going on the first day of April. Some people refer it to April Fool's Day. Jen refers to it as Amateur's Day. We are safe and sound. Preston Thorne and I are here in the studio. We feel comfortable today. We don't have to worry about the seat having any issues or glue on the mics in case the lips touch the mic, anything like that.
At least that's what you think.
See, that's the thing with a prankster. You got lulled into the trap yesterday. Oh, yeah, I'm not going to run any pranks on one day of the year. How could you fall for that?
That's her April Fool's.
Can't trust a prankster.
No, that's her April Fool's Day joke right there. See, at the end of the show, she's gonna be like, "April Fool, see, wasn't gonna do anything. I'm fine." This is like when we were in school. Okay. Did you ever have a teacher? Did you ever do this where the teacher would be like, "All right, if you kids talk too much, I'm just adding too much homework. I'm adding homework, kind of like assigned laps." Like I'm adding homework throughout the day, and then every opportunity they got, they'd write on the board like another vocabulary unit, another math unit, and by the end of the day, there'd be like 6 lessons you'd have to do, and then they'd be like, "Ha ha, April Fool's Day."
Nah, no. If I was that far deep, it was for real. If we was that deep into it, yeah, it was for real.
All right, well, we'll get you up, get you going. No pranks or jokes here today. This is quite the annoying day, actually, because you never know what people are saying that's legitimately serious.
It's the same age range of folks that that pinch you on
St. Patrick's Day.
It's the same group of people. Same age range. Middle school, later elementary. Those are the same ones you need to watch out for.
Okay.
It's the same scouting report.
Yeah, because at our age, we're just trying to get through the day. We're just trying to get through a Tuesday now, basically.
I don't need any tricks in my life, frankly. Unexpected pranks. I get enough of them. Sometimes bills come. That's happy April Fools. You got another repair.
Tax day's 2 weeks away. When you get into your 40s, you're just like, all right, well, let's just get through the day. All right, well, let's get up and get going. Got some baseball tonight. And Preston Thorne is ready. He is ready to declare it again. Go ahead.
I can't declare it again because I've already declared it. But I'm just going to say, welcome to the party, Coach Maneri. Thank you. You have come and entered into our realm where we declare a game the most important game of the year. You're a week late, but I accept you coming into our this is our zone of expertise right here.
So there you go. So Preston is ready to jump into that. Gamecock baseball tonight again, 6:15 pregame, 6:30 first pitch. Will take place right here at 107.5 the game, 100.3 the game in Myrtle Beach. And we'll get you up and get you going for that. Talk a little bit, let you listen to a little bit of what Paul Maneri had to say yesterday with Jay and Elijah on Carolina Calls, and get into that a little bit. Also, J.C. Sherbert set to join us later on this morning, and we'll talk with him about that. But again, yeah, Paul Maneri yesterday being on the postgame show and being real about the team, Preston Thorne. We'll talk a little bit about that. And then also he says, I think what every coach says normally kind of at the first part of a slump, there's no give up with the team, right? No give up. That's the early part. It's all fight, still no give up.
No, this is when you say it late. That means there's potential for give up.
Okay.
Would you say you don't say early in the slump because you never know. See, that's the thing about a slump. Am I starting a slump now? Is the slump going to go a lot longer? Are we at the beginning of a slump? Are we in the middle of a slump? Will the slump continue for 10 more games? You don't know how long a slump is going to last. So when you start getting the phrases like, there's no give up, you're officially in the slump.
Okay. All right. So we'll get into that a little bit. Also, this morning we'll talk a little bit about Eli Ellis. What do you got on Eli Ellis? He's on the rundown. I did see last night he's out there tweeting.
All I can say is Eli Ellis is tweeting a lot. He's very intriguing to me.
Yeah, he is a different kind of guy, and we will certainly get into that a little bit. We didn't get much into the basketball news yesterday as it pertained to the transfer portal, but we'll get into that a little bit more today in terms of South Carolina picking up 2 commitments. And last night, a tweet popped out and then it disappeared.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
A tweet popped out and then it magically erased. And we'll get into that a little bit this morning. Maybe a former Gamecock, about to be a current Gamecock. Maybe the grass wasn't greener on the other side of the fence.
I did see that.
Yes. And it magically disappeared. because that's what happens on Twitter. So we'll get into that a little bit this morning. We'll tell you who that player was. Also, we've got some audio from yesterday. The Carolina football coaches talked, more Carolina football coaches talked, I should say, and we'll get into some trench talk, just the kind of thing that gets Preston going on a Tuesday morning.
Nothing better than spring practice trench talk. You know, you get to hear from the guys. And again, more importantly, we get to break out the old lossage meter and see who's head of the league in lossage meter. I feel like we have some good candidates today. We got Teasley, we got Robinson, we got Lucas. I feel like those are very strong candidates. Mike Fury's at the top of the board for lossage leader right now, and so we have some strong candidates today.
So we'll get into that. And, of course, last night, not sure how much you got into it, but we now know the pairing for the Final Four in Tampa. It'll get going with South Carolina and Texas, 7 o'clock Friday night, round 4 in this competition. South Carolina has dominated 2 of the games. They lost the one road game by 4 points there in Austin, Texas. So South Carolina has won the home game, the neutral site game. Now they get the true neutral site game down in Tampa, the other one being in Greenville. Remember, Texas kind of complained about that. We'll see if they want to complain, if Vic Schaefer wants to complain about that. Again, this time, he might be a little surprised at the turnout from the fans. But South Carolina and Texas. And on the flip side of it, UCLA and UConn, 9 o'clock, are following South Carolina, Texas.
Yeah, those are 2 good games that I'm definitely looking forward to. Paige Beckers is balling out of control, showing who she's been this past year previous to the injuries. She's been playing really well. UConn looks good. It looks good. I don't know how that'll turn out against UCLA, but UConn looks good.
Well, I was about to ask you because I'm looking at it. I didn't go searching for this. It's just right in front of my eyes. Who would you pick to win that game?
I don't know, man. UConn looks really strong.
The spread on that shocked me. 8.5. ESPN Bet.
UConn?
ESPN Bet has an early line on that of Connecticut minus 8.5. South Carolina's minus 4.5 for those wondering. But I just not something I went searching for last night to bring to the show today. But as I look at the bracket right now, it tells me UCLA is an 8-point underdog, the 1 seed in that side, and goes to tell you kind of what exactly Connecticut is doing right now. And, of course, we saw it up close and in person here at Colonial Life Arena.
I guess this is the first time I would say, like, maybe I would prefer UCLA to win. You know, I haven't really said that all year. Like, but if you peek across the bow at the other bracket, you'd be like, if UCLA win, that wouldn't be the worst thing.
I don't know. Maybe another shot with Connecticut. We'll talk more about that as the week goes on, but that is set for Friday night down in Tampa. So we had that last night. Did you get into any of that last night, by the way? Did you watch any of Texas TCU? Did you watch any of UConn Southern Cal?
Texas TCU was strong.
I caught a glimpse of both. I didn't watch the whole game. I did see a little bit of Texas TCU.
Yeah, okay. Was going to be interested if TCU won, who Jeremiah Donati might have been pulling for, because it's easy to say, well, he's the athletic director for the University of South Carolina. That's where he gets his paychecks. He also was the author hiring someone there at TCU to orchestrate one of the largest turnarounds in women's basketball history. And, you know, he's got to feel a little proud for that. It would have been kind of interesting to see where again, I'm sure he would have been wearing garnet and black. He knows where the check is coming from. But we will avoid that, and it'll be South Carolina, Texas. Also, later on this hour, speaking of athletic directors and paychecks and money, Coastal Carolina's got a plan, Preston Thorne. Coastal Carolina, Chance Miller, he's got a plan.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get Chance on the show. We're gonna have to reach out to Chance and get him on the show, because I don't know if revolutionary is a big enough word for the plan that they have in place at Coastal.
Okay, well, we will get to that. We'll talk about that this morning a little bit. Again, J.C. Sherbert set to join us. We'll talk a little bit about that basketball transfer portal that is cranking. The Colin Murray Boyles news, CMB news yesterday. I believe that occurred when we were on air, I think is what happened, because I saw it later. But Peter Burns has got the show that normally comes up here while we're doing our show. I think we're on ESPN and ESPN2 right now. But on the SEC Network, I believe they have that show. And I did not know Lamont Paris was on. But very interesting wording from Lamont Paris yesterday on what CMB might have been offered.
Well, yeah, he said CMB was offered $2.5 million from an SEC school that's playing in the tournament. Only problem is there's 14 teams playing in the tournament, Lamont. So If you take us out, I guess we're out of the equation. Maybe so if you take us out of the equation, who wasn't there? Who else didn't make it?
LSU.
LSU.
Yeah. So it wasn't LSU.
It wasn't LSU and it wasn't us.
Thank you.
LSU's too busy spending money on football transfers.
One of you 14 did it. I don't know who, but it was one of y'all.
Well, I wondered if he meant that was still playing in the tournament.
Well, that's what I was trying to figure out also. So I was like, is it still playing the tournament? Is it in the tournament? I don't know. I just thought it was one of yous.
We'll
don't know who.
We'll get into that a little bit with J.C. Sherbert this morning as we get you up and get you going. Happy April Fool's Day. Happy 1st of April to you. It is the month of April. All right, Preston's great month is wrapped up. I think the month of April might actually be better than the month of March. We'll continue that debate throughout the month, but we'll get into some spring football when we come back. Trench talk. That means some handsy football discussion there about replacing guys and all kinds of different things when we come back. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen. It is the early game.
It's Jen for CHW Cabinetry in Lexington. The demolition we did in our kitchen, we had to completely gut it due to a flood. That was not a fun experience. Was not in the mood to even think about picking out cabinetry. But someone recommended we go to CHW Cabinetry, and I'm sure glad we did because they made it so much easier. Got everything picked out. They actually had a few laughs in there at the time. Great people. And then we got the picture of the photorealistic rendering of our kitchen, showed our kitchen was completely finished before it actually was. And that made it so much easier when we were looking to pick out flooring and countertops and all those other things that go with the cabinetry. But kitchens, that's not all they do. We've used them to put in a couple cabinets in some bathrooms recently that we've updated. They have home office workspaces that they can take care of, things in closets. You get the drill. CHWCabinetry.com. See what all they can do. Call them at 803-520-6837. Tell them Jen Jensen sent you. CHW Cabinetry in Lexington. Passion from inspiration to installation. Don't have any accidents on the board right now. Great news there. No major slowdowns at this time. And we're looking for 76 to be our high today. 80 tomorrow, then in the upper 80s through Saturday. Mostly cloudy today and tomorrow. But again, we're getting into the upper 80s. And we're going to see temperatures really in the 80s throughout the weekend. So very spring-like. And 63 is what we're looking at right now on 107.5 The Game.
.617, actually .618. Flipping over the minute here right now as we get you up and get you going. Talking a little football this morning. Spring practice taking place. And Preston, now we got some coaches talking. This didn't happen during bowl season, so we weren't sure if practice was happening. You questioned about a week ago if spring practice was actually happening or if they were just over there kind of.
Yeah, I still don't know. I haven't seen any clips of actual practice
That is actually
happening.
a good point.
I don't know if they could just be talking. Because we haven't seen any clips, we don't know if things are happening. We're assuming the spring game is rapidly approaching, so we're just gonna go off of what they say. But yeah, we don't know.
You wanted to discuss a little bit of trenches talk here.
Well, the coaches were talking. Lonnie Teasley, Travian Robinson, they were all talking about what's they have to replace in the new year in order for these teams to be successful. Obviously, the offensive line, who showed some improvement towards the end of last year, the defensive line, who was tremendous. And so listening to them, they were talking about who and what they had to do to be replaced. Here's Lonnie Teasley. This is clip number 1, Jen. Here's Lonnie Teasley talking about replacing the interior of the offensive line.
That's been going good. First thing is you got to make sure we got the center spot right. So we got a bunch of guys repping there. RJ, Boaz, Marquis, Chase, and, all those guys been doing well. And so, they've been doing well with that. And then we got guys who've been in the program who've played guard. So they're just taking the next step. And then we got some guys doing some different first-time playing guard who've been with us. So all of it's been working well, though. Those guys are getting comfortable in there, working with each other. The new guard, like we got Nick, who's new. It's just getting comfortable, communicating with each other, knowing how everybody ticks and that sort of thing.
All right. He made a really interesting point. First and foremost, 0 on the losses scale. No losses.
Very smooth.
No losses for Lonnie Teasley. I don't even know if he's coaching out there.
Okay.
If this is the spring practice, I need for my offensive line coach.
I think that's the Greg Atkins role.
That's Greg Atkins.
I think that's the Greg Atkins.
He leads the yelling and screaming.
I think we've got good.
Sean Elliott and Greg Atkins, they do the yelling, and Lonnie comes in with the smooth,
kind of puts his arm around him, like,
okay, that's how it works. I did not expect that from my offensive line coach. Need a few more losses on that. But he talked about the idea of transferring from the difference between guys who have been here and now they're moving in to playing guard as opposed to tackle. This is clip 3, and let's listen to him talk about that.
It is hard. It's not like everybody just says, kick people inside. The game moves a lot faster inside. Everything from before the contact, the mental processing happens so much faster. Most of the time, it's the center guard who are making those calls to get everything sorted out. So you got the mental side of it, and then you got the physical side of it. Everything's happening right now. As far as tackle, you got space. So you're not especially in pass pro, it's not getting on you right now. Even in the run game, same thing, because, DNs play out off your body. Well, now guys are playing, and it's boom, right now. So you just got to get used to the mental processing is happening faster, and then the contact's happening a lot faster. So there's some reps that need to be had.
Well, and he's talking about Tree Babalati. Right. So
Left guard.
They're moving.
Guard.
They're talking about where Tree they anticipate Tree playing this year. And so yes, there's a big difference between you playing offensive tackle where you have a little bit of space, you get to kick step, you get to look all good out there at tackle, as opposed to when you're playing inside as a center or a guard where the big nasties are right up on you, on top of you all the time. And so that is an adjustment that you have to make. Typically, your more athletic guys play out on the edges, and the closer you get to the ball, the less athletic you are. It's typically how it goes. It's just football. All right.
But the goal here, all right.
Far away from the ball, athlete. Closer to the ball, not a good athlete.
Stocky and
Not a
pretty good
athlete.
around the buffet.
Just
So where were you?
I played nose guard, right on top of the ball. It's very clear. It's a real simple equation.
Right on top
I
of
just
it.
want to verify.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. Me in the center, we're the same guy. Just one plays offense, one plays defense. And so that is sort of the adjustment that they'll have to make as far as offensive linemen this year.
So, I think the interesting thing about this is you take Tree Babalata, who was a tackle his freshman year, and you move him inside to guard. And going back to what you said, one of the things they talked about him at tackle was his athleticism and what he can do at that position. And I say that because what is the adjustment? What do you feel like? You were a defensive guy, but what's the adjustment like that for a athletic guy? What does that do for the offensive line? Because this is where I feel like we're going to get, and J.C. Sherbert will talk about this in a little while. This is where I feel like people are going to be like, oh, this really enhances the offensive line. This is like the crunch enhancer from Clark Griswold. Like, really, it's gonna get in there and it's gonna protect the quarterback, and that's what it does.
Yeah, I mean, athleticism is there's athleticism in spaces he just talked about versus athleticism in tighter spaces, which you'll be playing center or guard. That's yet to see whether or not it's kind of the difference when you talk about wide receivers who are fast as opposed to quick. You're gonna have a little bit more of your quick twitch muscles inside as you're playing guard. So that's still yet to be determined. Also, as he said, the physical aspect, not just at tackle, you get to move around, you get to be free. When you're playing in guard, there's a toughness aspect that I assume they feel like Tree has, but that's yet to be determined.
So let's hear him talk. You just played the transition from tackle to guard, but this is Teasley yesterday, the smooth tones of Lonnie Teasley, talking about the importance of versatility on the offensive line.
Yeah, so, and you're talking about for the season? Okay, yeah, so by the season, most of those guys want to train in different positions because all of them want to play. And they know the more you can do, the faster you're going to get on the field. So, like, say if they're not in the top 5 to start and they're the 6 or 7 and they can play tackle guard, well, sure, I can go in first time we get an injury. Hopefully not. We don't get an injury. But most of the time by the season, I know who the first tackle is in, and that's kind of how I go. Like, who's going to be the first tackle in, who's the first guard in, who's the first center in, and then we go from there after that. But we kind of hone in the summer camp, and I was, who's the third guard, who's the third tackle, who's the third or the second center, if something was to ever happen.
You hear what he's saying there as it pertains to who's the first guard, the second guard, and all that good stuff.
A lot of depth chart talk.
Yeah, you love that stuff.
A lot of depth chart talk. Who's first? Who's second? Who's 1A versus 1B? Do you have sometimes offensive linemen have a 6th guy who goes in regardless of if somebody gets hurt. Sometimes offensive linemen actually have somebody who's better at a position, so you have the second lineup of dudes. And so it all depends on how he said he has one for each position. I would say, yeah, that's probably fair unless you have a guy who's just better than the rest of the second string, and then you put that dude in. It's all spring practice, all talk, all trench talk, all your depth charts. You hopefully don't have to go down those roads if you are able to stay. If you're able to stay healthy, which probably led to a lot of their success last year because they were able to stay healthy.
They were able to stay healthy. The Alabama game, they tried Jatavius Shivers. This is a guy that I really liked. big guy, 6'7", got some of his first experience last year. Here is Lonnie Teasley talking a little bit more about Jatavius Shivers yesterday.
Yeah, so Jatavius is another one of those young guys who've been here now. It's their time, and just consistency, and that's always with offensive linemen. Because Jatavius is a really talented player. He's got the length, he's got the feet, he's smart. Just being a more consistent player, and he's shown that during camp so far. Done some good things, but just overall consistency in the run and pass, which he's headed in the right direction.
And I thought it was interesting. He mentioned basically his third year in the system. And you got a lot of those guys, Trevon Balltree, Babalade, Jatavius Shivers, Marquis Anderson. It's his third year in the system. There's a lot of guys there, Preston. I don't know when an offensive lineman you feel like, all right, you're ready. I feel like year 3. They've had the redshirt year. Maybe they got a little bit of run as a freshman. We've seen that. And then year 3, if you're kind of that 4-star, 5-star recruit, you're ready to step in there and be a stalwart on the line.
Yeah, as an offensive lineman, you don't have the luxury of being inconsistent, because if you're inconsistent, that could be 3rd and 20. It could be a sack, or it could be a missed assignment. So you don't have the luxury of being inconsistent, and that's probably the most important thing that an offensive line needs to work on. I need to know what you're going to give me, good, bad, or whatever. Now, I don't need you to be up and down. If you're going to be bad at doing this, cool, be bad at doing this. We can game plan around that. But if you're up and down, that's very difficult to game plan around for an offensive line coach.
803-404-6100, how you can weigh in if you want to do so this morning. Walt weighed in, I believe. Walt said, most important game of the year? Don't be scared to say it, Preston. We'll see what he says regarding South Carolina and Presbyterian when we come back. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen. It's the early game.
Still looking pretty good out there this morning. Not really seeing any accidents that we're aware of at this time. And your forecast, the rain's out of here. 76 for the high today, 80 tomorrow, upper 80s through Saturday. So kind of getting into April feels a lot like spring. Right now, it's cloudy and 63 on the early game.
So, when we strap it up against Presbyterian on Tuesday, we need to win a baseball game. I hate losing more than anybody, believe me, and it's a very distasteful thing. I don't care if you're playing the Yankees 7 times in a row. Just to lose 7 games in a row is very, it's very discouraging when that happens. Disappointing, not discouraging. Disappointing. But the important thing for us is not to get discouraged and go out there on Tuesday and play as well as we can play. We're gonna treat Tuesday like it's the 7th game of the World Series. Whatever it takes to win a bit, we need to win a baseball game. Whatever it takes, we're not holding anything back, and we're gonna go out there and play as hard and as well as we possibly can to attempt to win a game. And then after that, we'll turn the page and go to Starkville, and hopefully we'll compete hard there and have some success. We'll see. It's not an easy place to go, despite what their record is. But it's also a little different than having to play these last 2 teams. These 2 teams are well put together, and they play well on the field. So, not that anything's going to be easy, but glad we're done with those 2 teams.
The sultry sounds of Paul Maneri there trying to tell us, all right, I mean, excuses, truth, reality, they did just play number 1 and number 2.
I really appreciate that tone of messaging. Like, hey, man, those 2 teams are different. Those 2 things that we just did, that's a little bit different than what we're going to see. Yeah, SEC, I know it's tough, Starfield, blah, 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 Cowbells, whatever. That's not this.
Right.
We have a better opportunity to compete and win against Starfield. And he just said it, Bill. He's welcoming to our party, the thing we like to do the most. Are you happy now? Are you all happy now that a coach actually said it when we say it all the time? Yes. Here it is. The Presbyterian game. Most important game of Paul Maneri's career. Said it.
Okay.
Most important game of the season. Said it. Most important game of Monty Lee's career. Said it.
Well, Monty was a head coach at one point.
So was Paul Maneri.
It was probably a game that Monty lost that has sent him back to being an assistant. I don't know what game that was.
Well, we're here now.
But
we're here now. Does he want to be a head coach again? He better win this one.
Well, I agree with you on this team and this season. This is not a turning point, in my opinion. This is not a turning point, but it is simply you can't lose. It's as close to, I guess, for baseball, it is, and this is to your point, what you're saying, this is as close to a we can't lose as you can get in college baseball. Like, you simply, no offense to Presbyterian, no offense to anybody who's played at Presbyterian, no offense to the Blowhose. Yeah, you simply cannot lose this game. And yesterday, Paul Maneri joined the post-game show, and he doubled down on the Jen that's going to be number 30 from today. He talked about the importance of the Presbyterian game and what it means for this team and moving forward. Here's what he said yesterday with Jay and Elijah.
Yeah, we just need to win a game. We've the last 7 games have been against some of the top teams in the country. You mentioned Arkansas and Tennessee, and then, your midweek game is against North Carolina, who's one of the top teams in the country as well. So, we just need to get out there and win a game. But Presbyterian will not be any walk in the park, I can assure you that. Of course, I studied them today, and, they're pitching their Friday night guy. Their Friday starters started every Friday up until this past weekend. So, there'll be a challenge there. I'm sure he's their best guy. And, we're going to counter with Tyler Pitzer, who'll get his first start of the year, try to get him back on the horse and see if we can't get him pitching well again for us. But we're going to have to battle these guys tomorrow, and nothing to be taken for granted. But obviously, we want to win very badly. I don't care who we're playing against. We need to just get off the schneid and get a win, and hopefully get ourselves a little momentum and some good positive thoughts before heading to Starkville this weekend.
April 3rd, 2024, South Carolina plays Georgia Southern at home, Founders Park. They lose 8-0. It was on national TV.
Yeah.
And if you remember last year, I said, that's it. That's the one where people got off the train. This game has the same potential to have that type of potential. You lose this game, there's really no realistic reason why people should just keep giving you the benefit of the doubt or keep hoping for the best case scenario. It's the same thing that happened last year. And it's just funny. April 3rd, it was around the same time last year. Remember last year? They got on TV. It was on TV. It was at home, and they lost to Georgia Southern. And that's when I can't say people. Let me speak for myself. That's when I said, yeah, that's a wrap. And this game at PC has the same potential. The difference between this one and North Carolina game, I felt as if they would have won that North Carolina game, that might have given them a springboard going forward into the Tennessee series. It didn't happen, obviously. You lose this game, the slope gets even more slippery, and it's a long upward climb. Just from a morale perspective, to lose this game.
We'll continue to talk about this as we roll through the morning, but let's get out to the phone line. Steve wants to weigh in and change the subject. Little women's basketball talk. Steve, how you doing? What's on your mind this morning?
I'm doing fine. How y'all doing?
Doing good.
Okay. I'm pretty sure y'all heard this because y'all sports nerds, and I am too, but there was talk that the referees helped our Gamecocks with Maryland and plus Duke with the calls. Well, I watched that game, and I didn't see anything. It's just because it was a close game, then they feel like if we blow people out, then there's nothing to say. But a close game, they feel like the referee helping us out. But here's what I want to ask you guys. Okay, all the men number 1 seeds made it. And so as we were watching last night, the guy said, it won't be all the ones in the ladies' conference for one reason only. And I didn't think about it, but I'm going to ask you guys a question. Has it ever been a Final Four, men or women, that a team got 3 losses and then the Final Four with the teams that only 3 teams they lost to? Has that ever happened? Now, if these talking about a conspiracy, to me, that's a conspiracy. They playing the 3 teams they lost to. Has that ever happened? I'll hang up and listen.
Yeah, appreciate the phone call. We'll have to get to the research. Somebody wake up Tyler Head. Somebody wake up Tyler Head and get him on that. We'll have to check into that. It's a good question.
I would venture to say no.
They won't have to play all 3. They only have to beat 2 of them.
Yeah, I would venture to say that hasn't happened. And obviously there would be some conversation about would this be happening if Juju didn't get hurt, and that's kind of the not tragedy, but the sports. But we got robbed of that opportunity to see Juju and USC at full speed against UConn.
803-404-6100. We'll come back. Free food? Well, this program's in. We'll let Preston explain a little bit more to you. He might have found a second favorite college team to root for yesterday.
Chance up.
We'll tell you about that. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen, Preston Thorne. It is the early game.
Hey, what's up? What's up, boss?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. What's the damage?
Free.
Free. Well, what about for this?
Free as well.
Free.
All of it free. You want some nachos?
Yeah.
Free too.
All free.
All free.
Free. Can I get 50 of these?
Yeah.
Free.
Free.
What about a drink?
All of it free.
Free.
Have 2 drinks.
Drinks? Whew.
And
All
a hot
free?
dog. Yeah.
Hot dogs free too?
All free. There you go.
Free.
Free.
Sweet.
That's right, Till Nation. This fall in Brooks Stadium, every fan, every game, always free. Free concessions, popcorn, nachos, hot dog, fountain drinks, and water for every fan this fall.
There you have it. Coastal Carolina. We'll get Chance on. I tweeted at him yesterday. I actually tweeted at him to have us a spot down there. He said anytime we're ready to come on down and hang out.
I'm looking for some hot dogs, man.
This is a thing. But it was a thing here. Chance pioneered a program like this. If you remember last year, they had free concessions at select games last year.
Had it this year too.
For basketball.
This year, yeah.
For basketball and men's basketball and women's basketball. So they've done this. This is something that he believes in pretty strongly of getting accomplished. And I think it's a really interesting approach towards fan engagement at games. We're already asking folks to come to games. There's already a lot of pushback as to why people would not come to games. But this is maybe a little bit of a give back to the fans who are making their way to the games.
I don't eat at games. Do y'all eat it? Like, baseball's different. Baseball
is different.
Baseball's
You're
different.
right.
Very slow, very methodical. You almost, and the ballpark food, I got to look here. We'll have our Braves segment coming up. I got to see what the Braves are doing this year.
They're on 5.
If you're going to the game, you're going for the food right now. Yeah, and I'm supposed to be there Sunday, so I'm already like, all right, what's the food options? But yeah, to go to that point, yeah, like if baseball is different, but football, I don't know. I'm sure people eat, but
yeah,
I'm sure. But I don't. Am I in the minority on this? If you're now, granted.
Have you walked around the?
No, I sit I hate to say this. Where I sit is a little bit different. Yeah. And I don't sit in the press box.
Us regulars.
Yeah.
All of you plebes out there. Yes. When you walk around the concourses, they're always packed with concessions. Yes, people eat at games.
Do they?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, baseball for sure. Again, because like you said, the speed and stuff, and there's just nothing like a dog from,
right.
Baseball game and stuff like that. But, at football games, I don't know quite as much. Basketball, yeah, I kind of see eating there too.
Yeah, I'll be honest, and I don't know if I'm going to be the weird person here. I have never, ever in my life, 42 years, going to a lot of sporting events, never had like one of the nacho things. Like that and it doesn't look good. The cheese does not look appetizing. The chips look like they've been back there from the previous year.
Yeah, a lot of times it comes out of a bag and you dump it in real quick.
It doesn't look like I just kind of.
The big plastic container of the squeezing of the cheese, yeah, but it's just the experience.
Like I guess Bill Goss, Billy G's, he's got his barbecue truck down there on one side of the stadium, I think. So I can see eating something like that that's more of like a niche, a unique, I'm going to call it a homemade, as opposed to going over where I see the hot dogs on the rollers,
That's the best.
Or hey, give me the Cracker Jacks or the cotton candy or whatever. I could kind of see that getting like something specialty, but I've never been a big eater at sporting events. I take it I'm completely in the minority on that.
I don't know if you do realize that that the sporting event nacho industry is tremendous,
booming,
and they're doing fine without Bill.
They truly are.
Without Bill Gunther. Yes, it is a huge industry, and yes, people do take and enjoy this, and it is a way for people to go to the games and potentially, especially if you have kids who don't have very discerning taste, it's a way for them to get concessions and a way for them to enjoy the games and take your family to the games.
After years of arguing with Roll Tide Todd, who has always got to make a comment about Alabama, he hits the nail on the head with football games for me. And this explains why I don't eat. And it's right. It should be right there in front of me, and it makes sense. We don't eat at football games because we've been tailgating for the previous 6 hours. And he's right about
that. Could be.
That is actually exactly because when we go, we're grilling something. We got the Blackstone, we got the grill. We've already had hamburgers and hot dogs.
But not everybody does tailgating. They can only go to the game and leave,
True. I don't know. Yeah. So I don't. I'm interested to follow this and see what happens. I'm interested to go. We'll have to look up Coastal's schedule this year, see what they've got going on. Usually they have Preston. Usually they have a midweek game that we can get to. Normally they seem to be playing App State. Has usually been the opponent there for that particular game. It's turned into a little bit of a rivalry and been a lot of fun. And I don't know if ESPN has put their schedule out as it pertains to what the midweek games will be, when we get into October and everything. But Coastal, I'm just glancing. They're at App State later on this year. There's a Thursday night.
Fighting Dow Loggins.
Thursday night game right before Halloween.
Big one.
Marshall.
Biggest game of Dow Loggins' career.
Marshall in at Brooks Stadium. Maybe we need to go ahead and put that down.
Does Marshall have a team? You remember their whole team left, including their coach, so I don't know.
There's a couple.
Is that game going to happen?
By the way, y'all know we see Coastal this year? I forgot about this until I just looked at it.
Oh, yeah.
Coastal comes to Williams-Brice on Saturday, November 22nd. But 803-404-6100. So where do we go with this? Do you eat concessions at the stadium? And I think it's, again, more football, basketball related, because I'm with you, Jen. I almost feel like when you go to a baseball game, you have to get, like when I grew up, it was the little baseball helmet of ice cream so that you would get the baseball helmet. But I feel like, you see what they're doing at ballparks across the country where you got wild nachos and what Seattle had, like chocolate-covered crickets or something crazy.
And again, the pace of the game does make a big difference.
A couple of y'all weighing in. Pete weighs in hockey, football, basketball. I may get something at halftime, and they may have a beer or two during the game, but absolutely no eating during the game. I'm too engaged. And then he says, baseball, however, you have to eat. There's no other way to pass the time than eating and drinking. It's part of the game.
Right.
It's Pete. That is Pete texting, not me. Another texter weighs in. Might go to the concession for the big pretzel. There's just something about a pretzel with salt during a sporting event so good.
Well, it's not like you're picking up one of those at the house, or most times you're not having just a pretzel.
Yeah, and also that something might directly be involved with whatever you did previous to going into the game.
Good point.
That those carbs and salt, you might need that.
Yeah.
The co-pilot weighs in. The Nachos Grande at Williams-Brice Stadium back in the early 2000s was awesome to eat during the game. After the game was a different story. And Richard weighs with don't care for concessions in terms of food, but I have to have a bag of peanuts and a beer if it's available.
Okay.
And I can see that where peanuts are kind of like a nervous niche, kind of like you're moving, your fingers are kind of, but yeah, I'm with a lot of you. I'm not an eater during the game, but I think I think I side with Todd on this. I think it's because of what I do prior to the game with grilling hamburgers or hot dogs or chicken or something like that.
I know at a race, eating is a big thing. But again, duration is a little bit different and stuff like that. But everybody hits, get a caution. Everybody's at the concessions getting their stuff,
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. 803-404-6100. Speaking of the race, we will be down in Darlington on Friday morning, the Schroeder's Towing Road Show. Us and the Extra Point will be live from Darlington, getting you ready for the upcoming weekend's race. We'll have Josh Harris with us, and we'll get you all set for the big race down in Darlington. That'll be Friday morning, the early game. Preston, myself, and Jen will be down there live from Turn 3 in the press box. Hour 2 on the way. It's J.C. Sherbert time. We'll get back into a lot of this football, baseball, and basketball stuff. It's the early game.
They say perfection is a journey, and our journey led us to Carolina Stone Craftsman just outside Columbia in Chapin. We did some renovation in some bathrooms and needed countertops, and we were recommended to go to Carolina Stone Craftsman. So thrilled that we did. Felt at home right away. Toured their amazing showroom, and they now have an amazing outdoor showroom I'm going to be telling you more about. But they have a fabulous commitment to affordable marble and granite and quartz. We weren't exactly sure what we wanted to put into the bathrooms, but they were so helpful in helping us decide. And did you know that some pieces of granite actually have a shiny side and then more of a leathered side? It's pretty cool. We ended up going with the leathered side for one of our bathrooms. But we learned a lot, put some kind of interesting things in our house, and everything was a perfect fit. If you need countertops for your kitchen or bath, tell them Jen Jensen sent you. Family-owned and operated Carolina Stone Craftsman just beyond Columbia in Chapin, and definitely beyond your expectations. Visit them online, carolinastonecraftsman.com. We have one accident reported at Lower Richland Boulevard right there, Paget Road near Carlo Drive. Aside from that, no other accidents to report. And spring-like temperatures is something we are going to be reporting today. 76 will be our high, 80 tomorrow, and then mid to upper 80s through the weekend. So welcoming that, not really seeing any rain in the forecast, maybe until Sunday afternoon or Sunday evening. Right now, though, 63 on the early game.
It's 7 a.m., and I can't hold this one, Preston. I got to get to it because we laughed about it yesterday. Maryland fans, this is a little message board mayhem at 7 a.m. This is off of Twitter from yesterday. This is a Maryland fan. All right, this is just a Maryland fan. Sources are telling me Kevin Willard has told more than 3 people they could be an assistant coach at Villanova. One problem. You only get 3. The man is literally addicted to lying and screwing people over. He needs to be banned from college basketball.
Let me tell you something, fan. If lying would ban a coach from college basketball, we wouldn't have a Final Four right now.
I couldn't hold that because I was going to forget it. But there's when your coach kind of works you over. Welcome back in, hour number 2 of the early game here. We get you up 7:01 on your Tuesday morning. Reminder, we got some baseball tonight. Presbyterian coming into town.
Biggest game of the year, Bill.
6:15 pregame, 6:30 first pitch, and Preston is all in. And actually, he's a step behind almost. Coach Maneri, the team, they are all agreeing they got to win.
Who's a step behind? I was a step ahead. I said North Carolina was the biggest game.
That's what I'm saying.
They are a week behind.
Okay, they're a week behind.
Yeah.
Got it.
Nobody will ever beat the early game to the biggest game of the year conversation. This is what we do.
We've already peeked ahead to some other games later on.
Nobody will ever beat us in that conversation.
We're prepared. 803-404-6100. Let's get out to the phone lines where it's Tuesday morning. So thebigspur.com's J.C. Sherbert is set to join us. And J.C., there's a lot of good to talk about, but unfortunately we'll lead in with the bad, and that was the baseball team right now, just the struggles that they are having. And let's just start with this. What your knowledge of revenue sharing is. How do you think that impacts baseball when we really get that going?
Well, if you look around the country, you see these articles popping up. It's something I've actually been saying for a long time. The sports other than football at schools that have football, there's going to be some adjustments that have to be made in the other direction. Now, the good news of baseball is they're going to full scholarships. I mean, they're going to have 25 scholarships at South Carolina next year as opposed to 11.7. I think it's long overdue. And so that helps. That game, recruiting in baseball has always kind of been about money and resources because very few are on full scholarship. I mean, even some of the greats that have come through Carolina's program were not on full scholarship. So, and many of them have been walk-ons. So NIL kind of changed that and helped them not have to pay for school. And now you're going to still get to go to school for free, but I think the overall money where you're kind of competing with the minor leagues and things like that will decrease at most places. I do expect the baseball program to get some revenue share at South Carolina, but it's not going to be the huge amounts that you hear about the Texas A&Ms of the world spending. And And guess what? Texas A&M's not going to be able to spend it either. So we'll see sort of how it plays out. But, yeah, the season's been a struggle, but I will point out, the last two SEC series Carolina's played, those teams are combined 16-2 in the league and ranked 1 and 2 in the country. The next two SEC series, those teams are combined 2-16. I'm smart enough to know Texas A&M is immensely talented, and they got them in 2 weeks. And Mississippi State's good too. They're probably better than their record, but it does lighten up a bit as far as competition goes. And frankly, a couple of moments against Tennessee, I saw some good things. I thought they battled hard, and that's just a really good baseball team. I mean, when you hold them to how many hits on Saturday, but 3 of them leave the yard and they beat you, that's just a team that's got a loaded lineup and a lot of good pitchers, and I think they're going to be tough for everybody.
Preston, you agree with that on just the transition from going – and he's not wrong, but I think as Oklahoma, I'd have to look back at D1 baseball and see what the rankings were from yesterday. I don't know if Oklahoma's still a top 10 team, because if you say that, that's your first 9 SEC games against top 10 teams, and I'll have that here in just a second. But the transition for South Carolina, Oklahoma State in at number 10. So you've played 1, 2, and 10 so far. Also one series against number 6, just if you're keeping track there. But the transition in your mind of going from playing the elite teams down to the teams who are struggling a little bit more, maybe more on your level?
Well, that's what you said. JC said that Mississippi State is maybe better than the record. And my question would be, are we better than our record?
Yeah. We're about to find out. The problem with those two series is they're on the road. I mean, Starkville is a tough place to play even when they're not that good. And then A&M's got a fabulous ballpark, and their fans get behind it. I mean, how excited are by the time you get to A&M, what's their record going to be? I don't know who they have this weekend. Mississippi State obviously has not gotten off to the best start, so it's going to be kind of a test of wills to see who wants to get up off the mat. I'd sure feel better if those games were at Founders Park, those two series, because going on the road's tough. But if you're going to turn it around, this is a great opportunity here the next 2 weeks, because their conference record's the same as the Gamecocks.
You talk about this with this team, and I know this is more a little bit of John Whittle's area. In your opinion, does the fan base start to check out on this somewhere and move to season number 2 for Paul Mainieri, or do you think you've got to win? Like, is it these two series you've got to go 4-2 even though it's on the road? Maybe 3-3.
I think that would make people feel better. I mean, the next team ends Ole Miss. That's the weekend of the spring football game. Yep. I don't know that some people didn't check out after the Clemson series, to be honest with you, but. Baseball's a long season. It's a funny game. Last time there was a first-year head coach, that team ended up, you look back on it, and what was it, 18? They had a bunch of major league players. But, that team started 20-17 and lost to Presbyterian in the midweek. I'll never forget it. And then all of a sudden they got hot and ended up one win from Omaha in the Super Regionals, Kingston's best postseason team. He had one win from Omaha. So you never know. There's always an adjustment to a new coach. I think you've had very few. I mean, around here, it's been 30 years almost since Ray Tanner came, and that was that one, and then Kingston were the only 2 new coaches that came in. Holbrook was a promotion, so they just kind of kept on going in his first year. But it's happened so little that you don't really have a beat on, well, this is just what normally happens with a first-time coach. I mean, this team is deficient. It's obviously, got its issues. But and I'm not trying to blow sunshine here. I mean, they could easily get swept the next 2 weekends, and it'd be a complete disaster. I mean, it's just that's just life. But there were some good things. I think I agree with Paul Mainieri. Today's the important game. Get a win, start to feel good, and then go down to Starkville and see what you can do.
803-404-6100. How you can weigh in. When we come back, we'll talk a little spring football with J.C. Sherbert. Let J.C. and Preston get into the continuity of the offensive line. South recruited really, really well there. There's depth. There's talent. It's time for it to step up, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we roll along. 803-404-6100. You're listening to Jen Jensen, Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, joined on a Tuesday morning, as always, by J.C. Sherbert. It is the early game. Bill Gunner for Old Timey Meat Market. Oh, man, what a fun weekend it was last weekend. We had some steak, we had some chicken, we had some chicken tenderloins, we had a little bit of shrimp. Old Timey Meat Market came through once again. And with so many things about to happen between the big race, you got Masters Week next week, you got spring football, now is the time. It's grilling out season, actually, and there's no better time than to visit one of the 3 locations than today to get one of their great cuts of meat, whether it's beef, pork, poultry. Maybe you want a little bit of salmon or you want some scallops or oysters. Old Timey Meat Market has you taken care of. So, again, visit Old Timey Meat Market in their 3 locations. The Lexington store, where you'll run into me, the South Congaree store, or St. Andrews Road in Irmo, and check out why their customer service is the absolute best in the business, why they've been taking care of families just like yours and mine for a very, very long time. Stop by Old Timey Meat Market today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
One accident to make you aware of, Paget Road near Carlo Drive. And that forecast looking pretty nice for the next several days. 76 today, 80 tomorrow, mid to upper 80s through Sunday. Maybe an afternoon or evening shower on Sunday, but pretty clear to that point with some spring-like temperatures. Right now, sitting with some cloudy skies, 63 on 107.5 The Game.
Reminder for our Gamecock Traditions over-under contest. Go to 1075thegame.com and click on our contest tab and pick the over-under of the week. If you pick it correctly, you could win a Gamecock Traditions gift card. Maybe go get yourself a new hat, maybe a shirt. Maybe you got something else in mind that you need from Gamecock Traditions. Go to 1075thegame.com and click on the contest tab. Pick the over-under of the week correctly. And again, we pick you, then you could win a Gamecock Traditions gift card. So again, go to 1075thegame.com to pick that. Preston, I'll let you lead in with J.C. Sherbert here because you are the trenches guy. You earlier, as a matter of fact, we got a text in from Billy, I believe, that thoroughly appreciated your expert analysis as to the offensive line. Yeah, Billy said expert analysis from experience. Thank you, Preston. The closer you are to the ball, the less athletic.
It's a fact. It's a proverb of football.
So does that mean that you're saying that the quarterback isn't athletic?
A lot of times, yes.
Okay.
I.e. Spencer Rattler. We can just see that 4.9 that he put up. He can throw. Not a great athlete. Yeah, a lot of times the closer you are to the ball, probably not a great athlete. Now, if you get the ball from somebody, running back,
right,
wide receiver, you are an athlete. If you hold the ball a lot, center, quarterback, probably not a good athlete. JC, the offensive line got better as the year went along last year, and a lot of times it was I think it was about continuity and having those guys not injured as far as that was concerned. What were the things that you saw as the year went along that's made them get better?
Well, I think, like you mentioned, the continuity. I thought that when you think about it, the two tackles, and Lonnie Teasley pointed this out in his press conference yesterday. Casey Henry was a third-year guy, but it was his first year playing all the way through. Because he had the injuries earlier, and then you had a true freshman on the other side. I thought that right guard was really good with Torres Ellie-Simpkins for the most part. Rashawn Lee was really good. I thought left guard was kind of hit or miss, to be honest. But they having that continuity compared to what happened the previous year, I think helped them do enough, along with Lenore Sellers and Rocket Sanders doing what they do, to have a really good offense by the time all was said and done. I am looking for them to take a step forward. There were some, to me, some of the more disappointing, moments were, failing to get a push in the run game. Carolina did finish fourth in rushing offense in the Southeastern Conference, which is not easy, right? But it still, I thought there were some times they could have done a little better with regards to giving Rocket a little bit more room, or whoever was playing running back. But I think that will come in time, and certainly older players on the offensive line, guys that have a lot of starts, as we know, that's very, very valuable. Even if they're coming from another school, like some of those incoming transfers like Newsome and Stanley and Sharp. It's just good that they've gone out and played. That's one spot you don't want to be young at. So they're not young anymore, and I think if they can build on last year, I think this year's going to be very important as far as that offensive line goes. You play such good defensive lines when you play the schedule Carolina does. It's unrealistic to think well, they're never going to get stuffed on a third or fourth and short. They're never going to get a sack. They're never going to have a lost yardage play. Those things are going to happen. What you want is for it not to be a liability, for them to compete down to down and win their share of downs. And I believe there's the reason to think that they can do that, next season. I think that, with the players they have, and then, there's some talk about maybe simplifying some things with Mike Shula in the run game, more hat on a hat kind of stuff, which I think is good when you look at the size of these guys, especially inside, that will make things a little bit more productive, a little bit more running room for the running backs this year and for Lenore Sellers.
One of the big position battles that will be taking place is the center position. Here is Lonnie Teasley yesterday talking about transfer offensive lineman Boaz Stanley and what stands out regarding his game.
Very mature man. Obviously, you get married that young, you probably would expect that. He works extremely hard. That's the first thing you really get to see him do is, interact in that weight room. He gets after it there. He's strong. He's getting, when he first got here, he was just letting his work speak, but now he's getting more comfortable around the O-line room and around the team where, it's like he's home, So I'm glad he's here.
You giggling?
Cuz, man, you gotta be like, oh, here comes Boaz. Old married and old ball and chain Boaz coming around the corner. Like, all the fun has to happen outside from whenever he's around. But I guess he can be a leader.
JC, I mean, I think this guy is in the lead, but it sounds like they've tried Marquis Anderson there. The Trovon Ball's been mentioned there. A few other, Ryan Brubaker, who's out, has been mentioned there. Your take on the center position for South Carolina?
Well, sometimes you got to kind of figure out who's actually working there and stuff because it's, there's such limited practice access. The guys can't go out there and just see. But from the time they got Stanley, I'm not going to say he's penciled in because obviously you have to compete. But I feel like that's the leader in the clubhouse. He is big and mature and an older guy. Ball and chain Boaz is a heck of a nickname. Preston, love that. But, Demetrius Knight Jr. was married and had a couple of kids. I mean, and he ended up being one of the spiritual leaders of the entire team last year. So, Vershawn Lee had a lot of leadership qualities. He'd been there for a long time. Such a fantastic individual, Vershawn Lee. So those are some big intangible shoes to fill. But Rodney Newsom working there is intriguing. So I wouldn't just pencil in Stanley yet. And then when he talked about Marquis Anderson working there, I believe they're cross-training him. He's playing some guard and some center, but he's healthy finally, from what Lonnie Teasley said yesterday, and that's been kind of the setback. When he was a true freshman before he got injured, they thought he was the best of the bunch with that group they brought in with Ball and Tree and those guys, Shivers and those guys. So Marquis got a lot of upside, a long runway, and a lot of football left to be played at Carolina. So that was encouraging as well. But, probably was about 90% on Stanley being the center before spring. I'll probably drop that to about 70, not because of anything I've heard that he's done, just because of the folks in there competing with him are pretty good too. Newsom is a really big-time athlete and also has some flexibility as far as being able to play guard stuff, just like Marquis. But I'll still go with I think Stanley's going to be the guy at center.
Yeah, that's another thing, JC. I was asking Preston in hour number one in regards to when we expect offensive linemen to really step in and compete. The Josiah Thompsons of the world are rare. A lot of guys here, Shivers, Anderson, Ball, Babalade in particular, they're all in their third year. And then you've got your transfers coming in. You got your freshmen. Is Casey Henry he's in his fourth year. Casey Henry, I think, is in his fourth year. But, yeah, a lot of these guys are in their third year. Now you're looking to them to really step up. And then you've also got the younger guys behind them.
Yeah, keep an eye on Shedrick Surratt from Gaffney, the true freshman. That guy, I don't know if he'll play this year. To be honest, the guy could play D-tackle if he wanted to. He's very athletic and sort of emerged on the national radar, gotten on the Navy All-American game and shined, and he's 6'4", 336, and doesn't even look like looks like he's 290, so he could dunk a basketball. So, yeah, there's some good young players as well. But I'll say this, I think that you're right about the third-year thing, unless like Marquis Anderson, because I don't want to hang anything around his neck and say, well, if he doesn't start this year, he's a bust or he's not as good as people thought. Just because when you have an injury, you can get behind. I mean, we talked about Casey Henry. Last year was his first year playing. It was his third year, but I think he'll be better this year with that experience. But, guys like Ball and Tree, I expect Tree to start at left guard and really be good on the inside. I think that guy really played well at tackle when he got to play last year. I mean, think about it. If he'd have not been good against Missouri, that game could have been a complete disaster because he had to go in and play the whole game. And I thought he played very, very well. Then and against Vandy, he got to redshirt. So, and Tree, from the time he's gotten here till now, they've always talked about, well, long term, he's probably an inside guy. We really like him there. And so he gets a chance to do that and line up next to Thompson. And if you think about it, let's say I think right guard is way up in the air, but let's just say that Trovon wins that. Then you're going like 336, 325, 335 on the interior. I don't think Carolina's ever had that much beef on the inside of the offensive line since I've been following it. And then on top of that, all these guys are pretty athletic. I mean, they're good players. They're not just big guys. So that's a daggum SEC offensive line that you want to go to war with because the players you're facing week in and week out on the D-line are quite good.
803-404-6100, how you can weigh in this morning. We'll come back. We'll get into a little bit of offensive line recruiting with J.C. Sherbert. The Gamecocks have 2 offensive linemen set for this class, both in-state guys. They're chasing a few more in-state guys, and they've also got a big out-of-state guy that they're in pursuit of. We'll talk a little bit about that and how that fits in with what South Carolina's done over the last 4 years with offensive line recruiting. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen, and, of course, J.C. Sherbert here on a Tuesday morning. It is the early game.
Pressing here for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. So if your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. Cracked windshield? No problem. They'll come out to your location and replace it for you, usually for free, and they'll work directly with the insurance company to take away the headache. That's right. They'll come out to wherever you are, school, home, work, it does not matter. Absolute Glass will come out and take care of it for you. Now, if you're at home and you're looking to increase the value of your home, Absolute Glass will take care of that for you too. Windows, mirrors, shower enclosures. We say it all the time. If you can see through it, Ray and Marianne at Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com. That's online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com.
Definitely has gotten a little bit busier out there this morning. St. Andrews Road at Bush River Road. Also Princeton at Ramblin' Road. Paget Road near Carlo, that's at Lower Richland Boulevard. And Meadowfield Road at Highway 6. There's also a report of an accident. So be careful out there if you would. We're looking for a high today of 76, 80 tomorrow, and then mid to upper 80s through Sunday when we might see an afternoon or evening storm. Storm? Shower or storm, I guess comes out storm. So whatever. I'm making up words this morning. Just call me Bill. Right now, it's 61 on the early game.
$7:32 as we get you up and get you going. Want to remind you the Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union Grand Slam giveaway rolls on. That'll be part of tonight. If you are not registered yet, you need to go today to 1075thegame.com and get registered. The pot is currently $350. Right now, the pot goes up $25 every game, and currently it sits at $350. And if you are registered, and a Gamecock batter hits a grand slam tonight, you could win all the cash in the pot, which is, again, is sitting at $350. If you're not registered, head on over to 1075thegame.com, get registered today. Sign up for the Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union Grand Slam giveaway. 803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in on anything you hear. Tuesday morning, joined by J.C. Sherbert of thebigspur.com. And Preston, J.C., I feel like back in Preston's days, Preston, I'm trying to think who made up the offensive line here. We had Big Strick from Georgia, Travell Wharton from Hartsville,
Simpsonville,
Nashawn
Goddard, Ohio, John Austin, Stratford.
Shane Hall was a New Jersey guy. We had different guys from C.J. Fry was from Irmo, Cedric Williams, James Allen. So a lot of South Carolina guys.
We had some South Carolina guys.
JC, you've talked about it. One thing that's kind of helping South Carolina, you look at guys that are on that offensive line are competing. Marquis Anderson, Dorman, Cam Pringle, who's competing, Woodland, Josiah Thompson, Dillon. I'm sure I'm leaving several others out, obviously, but South Carolina, the state of South Carolina has been on a run of solid offensive linemen lately, and the Gamecocks, Shane Beamer, Lonnie Teasley, they've been able to take advantage of it.
Absolutely. The numbers are big. I mean, and you have some really good players. You know, there's always been offensive linemen in the state. You go back, you had a guy like T.J. Johnson from Hainer back in the day. Kyle Nunn started at offensive tackle during the Spurrier era. You know, when Muschamp was here, there was a guy like Dennis Daly, who they put in JUCO from right there in Columbia, started. He got a lot of guys out of Charlotte and Virginia as well. Including Ja'Kai Moore, who's still there from Virginia. So it's a situation where what's been beneficial is, you know, the state's been good, and then this year's really good. The 2026 class, better than its historical average as far as numbers and quality. But then you look, and they're able to also go out of state and land a tree out of D.C., Maryland, and you know, go up to Virginia and get it on a Darius Gray, or go over to Atlanta and get Trevon Ball. I mean, that's very helpful when you can also supplement those in-state numbers with the out-of-state numbers, and it adds up to a situation where, you know, you've got more blue-chip offensive linemen in the program than at any point that I can remember. And so that's been very beneficial. I think Lonnie Teasley is an elite recruiter. You know, he does a great job building relationships with his players and the recruits. People want to come play for him. He's done a fantastic job getting the guys in the boat, so to speak. And that's just continued. I mean, you know, you think, well, man, they've signed a lot of good offensive linemen. This isn't going to last forever. And then lo and behold, you know, Zion Giles and Darius Gray's a lean. Anthony Baxter committed early. I mean, you know, they just keep going and going and going. Desmond Green from down at Timberland is a massive human being. that they're in on. They're fighting Georgia for him. So it's important. Shane Beamer, I think, some of the narratives about the program that aren't bad. It's just kind of a fact of life that a lot of folks have accepted is, it's tough to recruit on the offensive line in the SEC for the reasons I've stated about the defensive lines you face. And most of your better athletes that are big do play D-line in the South. It's not like the Midwest. But, I think he's just kind of, like he's done with a lot of things, rejected that narrative and gone and put together, along with his staff, a big bushel of good offensive line talent that I think will allow this offense to compete at a high level in this league, long term. And, we say long term, I think it starts, this year in 2025 as these younger players continue to mature and they continue to do pretty well in the portal as well. People kind of wonder about that. It's natural. I kind of thought the same thing, like 3 portal offensive linemen, but they've been recruiting well. But what I did, Bill, I broke down the numbers. And, after what happened in 2023, the numbers are important. And if you look at it, they would have about 10 or 11 had they not done anything in the portal. And then you're talking about 1 or 2 injuries, and you're down to 9, and a couple are true freshmen. Those are scary numbers. So once I looked at the numbers, I was like, oh, duh. They did need 3 portal offensive linemen, and all of them have eligibility beyond this year. They're not one and done. So I think that's a pretty good deal as well.
Preston, your take on just the building depth and competition on the offensive line, even though you typically want to only play 5 barring any injuries.
Yeah, I think that's where, when you talk about, I think the idea of depth is a little bit different than having numbers, right? So you gotta have numbers to fill the positions and fill bodies, but true depth is the guys that can actually go in and play. And so when you're hearing Lonnie Teasley talk about the idea of, we have a second group of guys that can go in and actually play. That's true depth, and that's what you have to develop. And the only way that comes is from picking and recruiting and retaining a lot of these high-quality individuals. So they seem like they're on the right path.
JC, we mentioned they've taken 2 so far. You just mentioned Desmond Green. I believe Trey Aiken, is from Clinton. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Good job.
Thank you. Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah. I got to know my rural schools.
There you go.
But, Desmond Green, Trey Aiken. I feel like I'm missing a third. Then there's Darius Rush. I know there's a few other out-of-state guys, and obviously you're not going to turn down a big-time player. How many offensive linemen do they take in this class?
I think they're trucking towards 5. They only took 2 in the last class, 2025 in this incoming class, and I don't know about 2020 or 2024. They took Thompson, Pringle, and Franks. So there's been 5 high school offensive linemen they signed the last 2 cycles. So a big class, I think, is needed because again, you're looking 2 or 3 years down the road with O linemen. You want to get them in the program and get them going. They've been very good at finding offensive linemen in the portal, but that's not always easy, to do that. I think really last year, if you look at portal offensive linemen, South Carolina and SMU probably did the 2 best jobs in the country. Gamecocks had 2 starters from the portal last year in Bell and Simpkins, and then SMU, I think, had 4 or 5. That they put together, and they made the playoffs. So other schools that have tried it, like Oklahoma, failed miserably. So it's still one of those positions that it's a lot of times hit or miss. It is in recruiting. So like Preston said, the depth is important because you do have injuries up there, and and you want a lot of options just in case. So that's but I think to answer your question, that's a long way of doing it. For 2026, I think there are enough quality guys that are out there they can get to 5, which is ideal. And most will tell you, sign 5 if 3 work out. That's a good haul.
803-404-6100 if you want to text in. I don't know if we missaid his name or if we left him out. Bubba asked about Anthony Baxter. Real quick, you mentioned Anthony Baxter is big out of the upstate. You mentioned he committed early, but last I saw he was in the 330 range too. What can you tell us about Anthony Baxter, who's already a part of this class?
Yeah. I went and I looked at his film, and I thought, the guy, what stood out to me was for a big guy like that, he can move. I mean, he's not slow. not a big slow guy. He's sort of raw, but I think I was watching sophomore film, so that's who knows. I don't know that his junior film's up. I'd have to go look at that, but definitely a guy you want to take. South Point in Rock Hill has been very good to South Carolina. He's their second commit from there this cycle, along with Xavier Currents, the freak defensive back and the number one prospect in the state. So he's a good take. He was really, really early, but he's certainly a player that you can see the athletic upside and the size down the road. You know what Carolina's doing on the O-line, guys, it's similar to Georgia and kind of an Alabama's philosophy under Saban. They go for size, and that's kind of a change because when Eric Wolford was the O-line coach, and we know Wolf, he would kind of go more on the athletic end, undersized athletic guys to kind of run that zone blocking scheme he liked as the run game coordinator or whatever. And that worked too. I mean, good players there, but what Carolina's doing is they're beefing up. And these guys, like I said, they're not just all big. They can move for a big guy, and those are the types of offensive linemen that go to the big time places, and then they end up being pretty good.
803-404-6100. We're going to hit a break, come back. We will switch over to some basketball real quick. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen, joined as always on a Tuesday by J.C. Sherbert. It's the early game. Final segment of hour 2 as we roll along here on your Tuesday morning, the first day of April. J.C. Sherbert, do you play April Fool's jokes?
No. These days with what I do for a living, the minute I have a doozy of an April Fool's joke, and because it really, the people, the trolls on the internet have ruined it in sports in a lot of ways. There's literally an account that just tweets bull crap about college basketball and gets everybody riled up. So I try to stay away from that, unfortunately. It used to be fun, but now, people, number one, people don't take jokes well. And number two, there's people that are joking all the time that just really, honestly, should be thrown under the jailhouse for doing it. So, it's the thank you, trolls, for ruining the fun for those of us that actually have a break.
Mm-hmm.
Damn kids.
I know. Well, I tell you what.
I'm getting really old man yells at cloud in my old age.
Well, we were talking in here. I just cut the heat on, and I was talking about how yesterday I was sitting in my living room, had a blanket over my legs, and I'm not aging well either. So
yeah, JC, keep in mind it was like 75 yesterday. So
yeah,
FYI.
No, yeah, no, I'm getting worse. I just told Preston when I get in the car, I cut on the seat warmers.
Oh wow!
Hey, Preston agreed with me, by the way.
Too, yeah.
Preston was on board with.
Yeah, I turn on the heat. I don't have seat warmers in my car.
Okay, all right. There's a Big Bang Theory show a couple weeks ago with Raj begging for heat warmers from his dad. And 803-404-6100. So yesterday we get Eli Ellis is just out there tweeting. He's tweeting, Preston Thorne. What do you got?
I've had my eye on Eli for two years now. I guess he's been a long-term commitment, and his social media has picked up significantly. He's throwing emojis everywhere, eyeballs, cryptic messages, and I don't know whether to be excited or whether to look on this with caution.
Okay. All right, JC. South Carolina does pick up 2 guys in the transfer portal over the weekend. What knowledge do you have of how those went down, and what you can share in terms of, was it NIL decisions they made? Was South Carolina able to be very competitive in that NIL front? How did all that kind of go down with the Gamecocks picking up the commitments?
Yeah, but they wouldn't have gotten them had the NIL thing not been competitive. Now, with Trace and Eagle staff, there were a lot of big-time schools that he had visits set up to. Gonzaga, the Kentucky, Kansas. He felt like the opportunity to come in and get a ton of minutes at South Carolina was good. He certainly fits. I talked all year about fitting what Lamont Paris wants to do. He's certainly a guy that does that. That's a player that when he hit the portal, the national guys, there are 40 schools that contacted him, and they all were like, well, he's going to go here, there, and here, and the Gamecocks got him. So that's a recruiting win that folks can feel good about. And then Christ Esandiko from Providence. I'll actually look that up. I wouldn't listen to a broadcast. Some said Esandoko, but 90% of them were Esandiko. So I'm assuming they did their homework, and the Esandoko guy did not. Tough year at Providence last year. I heard he really wasn't a fit for what Kim English likes to do. But if you look at his freshman year at St. Joe's, 8.2 points, 5.7 boards, shot 33% from three-point land. I think I don't have it in front of me. At 7 foot 290. Now he's gonna have to get in better shape because he only averaged 21 minutes at St. Joe's and 14 at Providence. But he's a good passer. I mean, he's a skilled big man, originally from France. I like him. Some people may not. They may just be looking at the stats, but just from what I see, that's a guy that can help. Unselfish player, passer of the basketball, really good player. And then, I don't know what Eli Ellis is tweeting about, Preston. I wish I did. But, they're still up there. Point guard, they had the Knox kid, whose brother's Kevin Knox on campus from South Florida, a good player. I think Michi Johnson is probably going to be, as things stood last night, there's going to be a return there. And so there's still work to be done, but it's been a nice start. I think getting a guy like Eagle Staff is not easy. People may say, well, he's from North Dakota. Yeah, but go look at the people that are playing in the Final Four. Most of them are Walter Clayton came from Iona. Janai Broom came from Morehead State. He was teammates with Talon Cooper at Morehead State once upon a time. So that's the way you do it in college basketball nowadays. I don't think in football the lower levels have become a quote-unquote farm system. I think in basketball, though, it's getting that way. I mean, definitely, and probably been trending that way for a while. So that's a significant pickup in Eagle Staff. And, I like how this roster's coming together, and if Colin Murray-Boyles decides to come back, even better. I mean, that's a significant turnover in a significantly upgraded roster to go to battle with next year in the SEC, which I don't think will be as strong next season. Not this strong. It'll be strong, but maybe the best in college basketball still. But I don't see 14 teams making it again next year.
Well, and this is a conversation for another day, going back to what we joked about at the beginning of the hour with Kevin Willard. But in basketball, because of Villanova, Seton Hall, I'll throw a Connecticut in there. Some of these ones, St. John's, who do not have football programs, you get into that revenue share, they're going to be getting the lion's share of that money that would usually go to a football program. Does that change the dynamics of where the highly rated basketball players are going to?
Yeah, it does. I think, the Big East television, because the Big East is primarily where you got to kind of look. That's where just about all those schools are. But even keep an eye on College of Charleston. Their NIL situation for men's basketball is really good right now. Virginia Commonwealth, the true mid-majors. But for the Big East schools that don't play football, and Connecticut plays football, that's going to be something to keep an eye on. But, that's, because those TV deals are smaller than the SEC and power schools. But you don't have to share it with football. I mean, football is getting 75% because rev share is about like what the money you bring in. And so, if you have football, those TV deals are going to be bigger, and basketball is going to have to figure it out. So, and that's starting in next offseason. This offseason, it's still as Lamont Paris said, Wild West.
JC, always appreciate it, man. Check out his work on thebigspur.com and look forward to catching up with you next Tuesday.
Thanks, fellas.
Appreciate it.
Take care. Hour 3 on the way. Plenty to get into, and we'll do it. It's the early game. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing, where for nearly 30 years, Mid-State Roofing is the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry, and it's that proven history that is your assurance that their professionals will get the job done in a proper way with the great advice, with service, and with the results that you need for your facility to keep it dry and running long into the future, whether it's your home or your business, whether you're here in Columbia, Florence, Myrtle Beach, Aiken, Augusta. Mid-State Roofing is there to help you, and they're doing it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You give them a phone call, you speak with an on-call technician or a Mid-State Roofing employee. 803-356-1919. Again, that's 803-356-1919. Again, they have someone on call 24 hours a day ready to take your phone call and help you with a maintenance contract. So if you've got a leak, let Mid-State Roofing take a peek.
Fort Jackson Boulevard at I-77, report of a slowdown there due to an earlier accident, as well as Meadowfield Road at Highway 6, Princeton Road at Ramblin' Road, Raven at Faro, and one more to let you know about, St. Andrews Road at Bush River Road. That forecast is looking pretty decent overall, kind of spring-like. Looking for high today of 76 with some passing clouds. Cloudy for the next couple of days, but 80 tomorrow, 87 on Thursday, 89 Friday and Saturday as the chances for sun kind of return a little bit. We might see some rain or showers coming in Sunday, that is, Sunday afternoon or evening. Might see some scattered showers on Monday as well. But we'll be in the 80s really through Sunday, so very spring-ish. Right now, 61 on the early game.
The joyous sounds of Tartan Day South. That's right. It's time to give you a chance to win a family 4-pack of tickets to this coming weekend's Tartan Day South, where you can go and check it out. 803-404-6100. That's right, 803-404-6100. We'll take caller number 5 right now. Can win a family 4-pack of tickets to this coming weekend's Tartan Day South, where you got all kinds. We were looking yesterday at the events. You've got the stone put. You've got the, what was the one that I was looking for right here that is the log throw? What was the name of that, Preston? Do you remember?
I do not remember what the name of that was.
I'll have to go back and see. I've got the old tree throwing. We'll have to go back and pull that up and see what exactly was going on with that, but it should be a great event. Go ahead, give us a call, 803-404-6100. Caller number 5 wins a family 4-pack of tickets to Tartan Day South. We have rolled along this morning, talked a little bit about a couple different topics. We started with a little bit of football, spring practice taking place. Lonnie Teasley talking yesterday about replacing guys in the trenches. And Preston, what have we taken away from the offensive line that Lonnie Teasley discussed yesterday?
He generally feels pretty good about it. But again, the offensive line is something that takes a while for them to gel and for them to come together. But they have a lot of pieces. We're not talking about not having pieces this time. There's been previous years where we're like, where are they going to come from? Hopefully maybe some freshmen will come in. We're not having those discussions, so it does feel like the offensive line conversation is advancing.
My question is, and this is just, we discussed this a lot last year, my question is, do you see Sean Elliott's implementation? Do you see Sean Elliott's hands on it a little bit more this year? Do you see him maybe poking over both shoulders instead of one shoulder? Do you see Sean Elliott maybe moving him out of the way and going, guys, no, this is how we do this? What is the role of Sean Elliott?
I think that's a great question, and we don't know. Until further notice, Lonnie Teasley is the offensive line coach, so he has to get all credit and just due for the improvements that they've had as far as recruiting is concerned. That's because that's all we know. We don't know what the inner workings of the staffs are or what they are.
So that has been Lonnie Teasley discussion today.
0 lozenges for Lonnie Teasley, too. I was a little disappointed in his voice.
So, Jen, let's go to Travian Robertson now.
Go. I know we're going to get some lozenges.
A lozenge man. Let's go with clip number 10, because this is him talking about replacing most of his defensive line room. Here's Travian Robertson yesterday.
A lot different. Knowing that, you lost, the guys that we lost and you had 2 years with them. And but it's good. It's part of football. You know, guys come here, they leave, they come and leave. So it's been different. You know, we miss Tonka, we miss TJ, we miss Boogie, but it's a challenge getting these guys to buy into what we, you know, coming from a different school. So just to buy into our terminology and what we're doing.
What do you take away?
One lossage.
One lossage?
One lossage.
Sounded a little bit better. Sounded like he hadn't been yelling all that much.
I don't know if I don't know how much practice is happening because I don't hear the throatiness that I need to hear from my offensive line and defensive line coaches. Yes, obviously he walks in the room and you look around and you don't see Tonka and you don't see Boogie and you don't see a potential first day draft pick. And you feel like you have your work cut out for you. That is seemingly obvious, and that's what the spring is for. We'll see who develops out of this crew that's coming. But yes, that is a daunting task when you have all that experience that is gone.
One other thing, Jen, let's play number 18 because this is, as you mentioned, experience. This is Travion Robertson talking about what the defensive line rotation could look like this year.
That's a hard question to answer because, you know, as the season goes, things happen, and I would like to rotate the number of guys that we're going to take. If we're taking 6 guys, I want to rotate all of them. But it's hard to answer that question right now, how I see it going. I like to wait till August and my 6 guys or 7 guys I'm traveling, see how healthy they are and what they're doing. This is a new group, so I'm learning them, they learning me, so it's hard to see how the rotation going to go in the middle of spring right now. So I wish I could tell you, but I cannot tell you how the rotation going to go in the middle of spring. But it's ideal to have a good rotation. This is a hard league, tough league to play in. We got good O-line, good D-line, and it's good to have a good rotation. So I would like to have a nice rotation up front.
What do you take of that?
Yeah, I'd like to. I don't
Okay.
know if we got it, though. I'm looking around. Maybe. We'll see. If some of these dudes develop into players, they will be able to play. We have to travel a certain amount of number. That doesn't mean because you travel, that doesn't mean you're going to play. And so it sounded like he's like, yeah, we'll see. And that's a development asset. And again, it goes back to not having Boogie, not having Tonka, not having TJ, not having DeAndre Jules, who came in and provided a lot of quality snaps last year. It's a little bit different, and you have to develop trust for those guys to see if they can go in and play in that rotation.
So that was a little bit of the football discussion from yesterday and getting into a little bit of what they are doing over there. We'll play a little bit more of that as we go through the week. Also, we got Sterling Lucas.
That's my lossage man right there.
And I tell you what, that's fine. Let's hear Sterling Lucas. Jen, this is clip cut 20, his assessment after a few practices so far this year.
I just want to start out, I feel like I say this every year, which I do, but shout out to the women's basketball team, making it to the Final Four again. You know, that's just a testament to Coach Dawn Staley and what her staff have built here at the University of South Carolina. You know, we're 5 practices in, really pleased with the production in the room. You know, we do a production game every week where we track TFLs, sacks, you know, pursuits. You know, I know you guys heard me say before we want to lead the SEC in effort, so we track pursuits as well. And I'm really pleased with the production. Brian Thomas, you know, we do it weekly, so Brian Thomas won it this week. He actually beat Dylan Stewart by 2 points, so he wasn't happy about that. But, you know, one of our core values in the program is competition. So, you know, we track that every week. Another thing, you know, just out recruiting, I heard a high school coach say, you know, refer to the weight room as the bully room. Right, the bully room. So that's one of our mantras in the edge room this year, you know, getting in the bully room. So our guys did a great job. You know, shout out to our strength coaches, getting those guys bigger, stronger, faster. BT, Dylan, JT, Dez, Jalen Brown, that came here from Missouri. Wendell, Gregory has gotten bigger, stronger, faster. Even our young guys, Quay Dalton and Anthony Addison. So, you know, that's just a testament to those guys, and that was actually evident. You know, we do this mock combine every year, and all those guys' numbers got better. So that's a testament to their hard work and the work the strength coach has been putting in with them.
A lot of losages.
Now, that's a man that needs a lozenge.
A lot of losages.
He's been coaching. He's been screaming. He's been telling contain. He's been saying all rip, chop, just yelling out random instructions. That's a guy that has been working. I don't know anything about what the production is going to be, but I hear a lot of losages needed from that conversation. So I'm satisfied. Now we got to put him against Mike Fury as far as who needs more lozenges, Mike Fury or Sterling Lucas. We might have that competition.
Tell you what, Jen, let's hear one more from Sterling Lucas. This is him discussing Dylan Stewart in year 2.
Yeah, so with those, I tell them you're all year 3 now, so we shouldn't be, I expect something more out of you, and they've been both good with that. There's certain things like when you're a freshman, they're going to make freshman mistakes, and now they're past that point, and I always tell them we can move on to level 2 and 300 problems now.
Is that how they coached you up there?
That didn't sound like the same guy. I see his label, and I understand that.
Didn't sound the same.
Don't know what was happening. The voice, the intonation, the intensity felt a little bit different. We'll have to do some investigating on that.
Okay.
That guy didn't need a many lozenges.
Yep. Well, we will investigate and see what is going on there. 803-404-6100. Also coming up tonight, baseball. Paul Maneri, he is saying he is joining the crowd. He is saying that this is the most important game for the University of South Carolina this season, that they've got to do something important. They've got to get things going tonight. And, Jen, I tell you what, again, this is going to be clip number 30 from today's sheet. Here is Maneri yesterday joining Jay Phillips and Elijah Campbell talking about the importance of tonight's game against Presbyterian.
Yeah, we just need to win a game. We've the last 7 games have been against some of the top teams in the country. You mentioned Arkansas and Tennessee, and then, your midweek game is against North Carolina, who's one of the top teams in the country as well. So, we just need to get out there and win a game. But Presbyterian will not be any walk in the park, I can assure you of that. Of course, I studied them today, and, they're pitching their Friday night guy. Their Friday starters started every Friday up until this past weekend. So, there'll be a challenge there. I'm sure he's their best guy. And, we're going to counter with Tyler Pitzer, who will get his first start of the year, try to get him back on the horse and see if we can't get him pitching well again for us. But we're going to have to battle these guys tomorrow, and nothing to be taken for granted. But obviously, we want to win very badly. I don't care who we're playing against. We need to just get off the schneid and get a win, and hopefully get ourselves a little momentum and some good positive thoughts before heading to Starkville this weekend.
And Preston, again, you're doubling down. This is the week. Or you're saying last week. And
last week was the week.
Last week
I'm
was the week.
glad everybody's come to the party. I've been here. Maybe it's a little bit more important now because we've got swept last weekend. I said last week against North Carolina was most important. We saw how that series went. Yes, this game is absolutely critical to this season because if they do not win this game, the streak continues. The morale is going to be a lot tougher to come across, and it's going to be difficult for fans to want to stay even a tidbit invested in this season.
803-404-6100. So we will continue on here and get into a little bit of the Braves. They go down last night, but hey, they did score. They scored. Not a start. No? Okay. All right. We'll figure out. We'll talk a little bit more about this as we roll along this morning. 803-404-6100 is how you can weigh in. You're listening to the early game. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing, where for nearly 30 years they have been the proven leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry, and it's that history that is your assurance that their professionals will provide proper advice, service, and results to the needs of your facility. So whether you're here in Columbia, Aiken, Augusta, Charleston, Florence, Myrtle Beach, Mid-State Roofing is ready to help you and your business, and they do that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They are ready to take your phone call, whether it's an on-call technician or a Mid-State Roofing employee. Mid-State Roofing wants to help you. So give them a phone call, 803-356-1919. At Mid-State Roofing, they design and install bonded systems with a protective guarantee that keeps your operation dry and running long into the future. Again, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Mid-State Roofing is there to help you. So give them a phone call, 803-356-1919. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
And still a little bit busy out there on the highways this morning, so do take a little extra time if you would. Fort Jackson Boulevard at I-77, also Highway 1 near Highway 378. I-26 eastbound at exit 102, an accident there. Irmo Drive at North Lake Drive. Meadowfield Road at Highway 6. Princeton at Ramblin' in the cleanup stages, as well as Raven at Faro. And St. Andrews Road at Bush River Road. But hey, good forecast on the way. 76 for the high today, 80 tomorrow, and we will be in the upper 80s for the remainder of the week into the weekend before we might see some showers on Sunday. Right now, though, sitting at 62 on the early game.
Up and at 'em. 8:18 as we roll along here. A little message board mayhem, but it's more of like baseball mayhem. Preston Thorne, we went into the season. What was the statistic you gave? I tweeted it out last Thursday. I think it was The Athletic had was it the hope meter?
The hope meter.
The hope.
The hope meter. It wasn't as high as it's previously been for the Atlanta Braves. I believe it was at 88% as far as the amount of hope that Atlanta Braves fans had going into the season. And you went into the season, you was like, yeah, they're gonna be all right. But how far does this season really go? What marks success for this team?
Winning a ball game.
Okay, we can start with one.
There's 2 teams in Major League Baseball who have not won a baseball game.
And that is?
And the Cubs are not in that list.
It's true. Very true.
Cubs have 3 wins.
Ooh.
I know. It's pretty exciting.
Braves are 0-5. The Brewers are 0-4. Now, to the Braves' credit, the 2 teams they've played, and maybe this is because they played the Braves, I don't know. The 2 teams they've played are 11-0.
Oh, so we're going with the old competition.
If you want to go down that path, obviously the Dodgers are the favorite to win the World Series. San Diego is a very good ball club as well as South Carolina. Atlanta feels like I'm talking about one and the same. San Diego swept the Braves to start the season. The Dodgers last night pummeled the Braves 6-1. Again, as I mentioned, good news. The Braves did finally get a base hit, did finally get a run. That was good to see. But Preston, baseball's a long season.
Yes, it is.
It is a long, long season.
When you make that statement, when you say baseball's a long season, that's like saying the sun either is partly sunny or it's partly cloudy. Because, yes, baseball is a long season if you're doing things the right way. But also if you were to say the Chicago White Sox from last year, it can also be a very long season. So what you're saying when you say baseball's a long season, you're saying, oh, the Braves got time, they're going to get better. Is that what you're implying when you say baseball's a long season?
Yeah, I mean, look, they're still trying. Spencer Strider's still down in the minors. They're trying to get him revved up and going. Ronald Acuna is still trying to get revved up and going. There's still a lot of pieces here. I don't know in baseball, is it the end of May? I think it was last year. Memory serves me correct. The Mets were really bad at the end of May last year and got hot. It might have been 2 years ago, but I feel like it was last year and rolled through June, July, August, got into September and whatnot. So there's still plenty of time. However, you do feel like, hey, let's get off the schneid and win just one game. One game would be a good way to start this thing.
Yeah, you need to win one just so everybody can relax and chill out. Yes, baseball's a long season, blah, 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 blah. However, there's things that indicate, yes, it might be a longer season when you have one of your starting pitchers, Ronaldo Lopez, has a messed up shoulder.
He's gone down.
So that's a problem. And then the person that you spent your free agent budget on this summer gets suspended for 80 games for PED use.
Yeah. So
when you say baseball, and here's what I didn't know until this point: 80 games, yes, long time, fair suspension for what Profar suspended for. In case you didn't know, he was suspended for taking a extra hormone that is usually taken in conjunction with PEDs, and as it gets into the whole sciencey things like that. When you take the PEDs, it stops your natural testosterone. This hormone is supposed to increase your natural, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, 80 games, but that's not what's the most important. When he comes back from those 80 games, he can't participate in the postseason. So he's done. See, he can play the games after his 80-game suspension, but after that, he is not allowed to participate in the postseason. So they'll get him back for the back half of the year, but he won't be able to participate in the playoffs. So you basically bought a damaged good. Obviously, you didn't know that when you was signing him as a free agent, but that's something you would have liked to be disclosed.
I get a text in, Twins haven't won yet. I didn't see that. I saw the Brewers and the Braves, but yes, the Twins have not won yet either. You're right, 0-4 for the Twins. 0-4 for the Twins, 0-5 for the Braves, and 0-4 for the Brewers. But yeah, Preston, that's an interesting. I didn't know that little stat until you just mentioned it. I saw Profar got suspended yesterday, but I didn't go into reading all of the details for it. And to your point, this team, it feels like they're picking up. Last year, it felt like they were snake bit. They couldn't kind of get going. It feels like they've carried that over on into this year.
Well, like I said, we'll see. They don't have the rash of injuries that they had last year yet, but those things can obviously build up. I guess the good side is that they'll be able to make some trades, and they'll be able to make some not free agent signings, but they'll be able to make some trades in season where they have some cap room and some salary money available. But you just don't want to start the season like this. You go to the store, you buy an apple, and the apple's rotten. And you're like, oh man, I wasted my money on this. This is something that you don't want. So we'll see where this comes from.
803-404-6100 set for tonight. We got a little bit more Major League Baseball here to go along with South Carolina baseball, but obviously tonight, April Fool's Day, some of these teams are going to want to get off the schneid. 6:40 tonight, you got the Mets and the Marlins. Again, Marlins come into Atlanta for a Friday, Saturday, Sunday series.
Go. Now we're ready.
Marlins are 3-2, Bo.
Yeah.
Marlins are 3-2 now. Hey, the Marlins took three. Oh, that's the Let me go back. Yeah, they took 3 of 4 from the Pirates. Take that for what you will, and then got beat by the Mets last night 10-4.
Yeah, they're trying to lose. They're not actively.
They didn't do a good job to open the season.
They're not actively.
By the way, all 3 of those all 4 of the games were 1-run games against the Pirates. But again, so the Marlins are on deck for the Braves. And let me just give you a rundown. We'll have our Chop Talk segment coming up later in the week. But certainly, you look at the Braves schedule, and I kind of just mentioned it there with the opener going on that West Coast swing, taking on San Diego and then the Dodgers. But Preston, the Braves go Miami, but then you get Philadelphia, followed by Tampa Bay, and then followed by Toronto. Don't get a few wins. Win this one tonight. Schwallenbeck, let's see, who's going tonight? Chris Sale on the mound tonight, and you feel like you're sending the right guy out there to try and stop the bleeding.
Yeah, that's a good look.
803-404-6100. We'll hit a break. We'll come back. We'll get back into a little bit of football, and we'll talk a little bit of spring practice as we have talked. Spring game denied, Preston Thorne?
Yeah. Fran Brown and Prime tried to make something happen. NCAA said, we're not doing that.
And Fran Brown becoming the new quote machine. We'll let Preston Thorne explain. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen. It is the early game. Bill Gunner for Love Chevrolet, I-26 in Harbison, between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park. If you are looking to purchase a brand new vehicle, now is the time. The Springtacular sales roll on at Love Chevrolet, I-26 in Harbison, between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park, where they are the home of the $1,000 low price guarantee. You heard that right. You can go shop at Love Chevrolet, check out all the great deals they've got. Then you can go check out deals at other dealerships and bring their deal back to the folks at Love Chevrolet, and they will top it, or they'll write you a check for $1,000. Hasn't happened yet, won't happen anytime soon, because at Love Chevrolet, with 14 acres of brand new Chevys with exclusive deals and with one of the best sales staffs anywhere in the country, Love Chevrolet is going to make sure you find exactly what you are looking for. So again, get to Love Chevrolet today. I-26 in Harbison, between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park, and together, let's drive.
St. Andrews Road at Bush River Road, getting that cleaned up, as well as Rabun at Faro. Princeton at Ramblin Road, also a report of a tie-up. Meadowfield Road at Highway 6. Irmo Drive at Northlake Drive. I-26 eastbound at exit 102, an accident there. Also Highway 1 near 378. And Fort Jackson Boulevard at I-77. 76, that's what we're looking at for today. 80 tomorrow, then we're in the mid to upper 80s through Sunday. 62 right now on the early game.
.31, and a reminder, we now have women's basketball set for Friday night, 7 o'clock tip-off, 6:30 pregame. We'll have it for you right here on 107.5 The Game. That'll be on Friday night, women's basketball right here at 107.5 The Game, 6:30 pregame, 7 o'clock tip-off. Elijah Campbell will be down there all week, and we will catch up with him later on in the week and discuss some of the things with him that he is checking out and keeping an eye on. 803-404-6100. Let's go back to the phone line. Speaking of women's basketball, Ty wants to weigh in this morning. Ty, how you doing? What's on your mind?
Hey, guys. How y'all doing this morning?
Good.
I got a question that I want to pose to you, too. It's kind of twofold. I'll listen to it once I get off after I pose it. But I'm watching the tournament, and I'm just like everybody trying to figure out exactly what's wrong with the girls. They don't look quite right. And I think I kind of figured out last night watching Connecticut. I don't think they're hungry. And what I mean by that, you can see the hunger in Peggy Beckers and also UConn's eyes. The whole team, they focus, they together from start to finish. And I think the thing that the Gamecocks miss, even though I think they have more talent overall than UConn and also UCLA, but UCLA and UConn, they got hunger, especially if you look at Betts, how she playing and the passion she gives. I don't think this team that USC has right now, the way they're playing, could beat either one of those two teams because I don't think they're hungry to win like they are. And I want to see y'all opinions on that. And also the second question I have to you, I have noticed that a superstar or great player on a good to average team, meaning that everybody on the play is either good or average, USC usually have issues with that. You go back to Caitlin Clark with that first time when they met, and then I'm just thinking about this UConn team with Paige Beckers and looking at that team. Do y'all think that a superstar or a really good player with above average to great players can beat a solid team that's all good or maybe above average and most of them good? What do y'all think about that?
All right, appreciate the phone call. Preston, you want to take that one there?
Yeah, I don't know if we can. I think there's a little bit of a difference when you talk about the idea of hunger. I think there's a natural difference between the team that's trying to repeat as opposed to the team that's trying to get there for the first time. So that's where you might see a little bit of the differences. But I don't think that necessarily changes the way the teams are participating or the way the teams are playing. Obviously, the women didn't play to what I think their expectation was, but at this point in the tournament, it is survive and advance. As far as having a particular player, those are great players, and nobody else has stopped those players to those points either. What my one concern is for this women's basketball team this year is that, as you said, when UCLA needs a bucket, they're going to Lauren Betts. When UConn needs a bucket, Paige Beckers is getting the ball. What we don't, even when Texas needs a bucket, Madison Booker's going to get the rock. I don't know if we have that person on this team, particularly who is that, for what we have in depth, I don't know if we have the singular person who can get that bucket. So that is my particular concern as you get to this point in the tournament.
Yeah, it'll be something to watch. I like South Carolina over Texas. That next one, though, Sunday is going to be a challenge. We'll see. Maybe, 4 times, a lot of times to play. And Vic Schaefer's a good coach. I'm sure he's got a little bit of a scouting report now. Dawn Staley's a really good coach. I'm pretty sure she's got a scouting report. We'll see, though.
Yeah, I'll just remind you, like you said, yes, 4 times is a lot. The 2 games that they won were by double digits. The one they lost was by single.
And on the road at legitimate away game. 803-404-6100. All right, you've got Fran Brown, the quote machine.
Yeah, he's rising up the ranks as far as the quote machine is concerned. Him and Dion, they skirted out, they floated the idea of a traveling concept for the spring game, and we said that it was going to get later, did not. I thought it was going to be on April 10th. The NCAA did away with it quicker than that, so that is not happening this year, maybe for years in the future, and Fran Brown was kind of going on and on about why that did or did not happen. But I think that is something that, as we hear the talk about spring games either happening or changing form or morphing into different products, this is something that I do think may eventually happen. You have to take someone to float the idea on a large scale, which Dion and Fran Brown did, and I feel like this might be something that they're moving towards.
So what did Fran exactly do here? Because
he was just talking. He's just talking. He's a quote machine. If he put a mic in front of him, he says interesting things, and that's something that a lot of coaches don't say. This is a long quote. I don't think we need to really necessarily play it because it's on the level of his quotes. It's not as good as losers don't take baths or any of his other great quotes. But he just explains what he thought about the process.
We'll get to that in just a second. Jen is on the phone there. But, again, I would be foreseeing scrimmages. Or, look, let me ask you something. Is it beneficial for teams, even if we don't see it? Is it beneficial for you during the spring? I know you said that there could be fights, but is it beneficial for you during the spring to see that as a coach or as a player?
Yeah, it's cool.
Better than what you're doing now.
I guess, because when in the spring you play against the same people, you can sort of get used to their tendencies. So, yeah, it's cool to practice against somebody else. That brings a little bit of a competitive edge to the practice. But I don't know if it's necessarily needed, though.
Let's listen, Jen. This is clip number 31. Let's just listen to about a minute of Fran Brown reacting to the NCAA's denying of spring ball.
We should have just told Coach Belichick and Bill O'Brien to come up with it, and then they would have let them do it, and then it would have all went right. We shouldn't have been the first 2 dudes to say, damn well they wasn't about to let Coach Prime Time and Fran Brown be the first 2 guys to do it. I was over their dead bodies, so that wasn't happening that way. I'm just messing with you, NCAA. Don't get all mad and call my AD and try to find me. I'm literally joking, but I think that they were headed in the right direction, right? And they had all the right reasons. It wouldn't have gave everybody the same opportunity, right? It would have been a little advantage and it wasn't about us being able to practice, because us practicing together would have only limited the amount of people on the field. It would have been 11 on the field now instead of, we go 2 spots, so it's 44. So now instead of that, it would have been 11 going at a time, right?
So you hear what he said. First, he's got his joke. He's got his joke in there.
Yeah, he should have just left it without a joke. You should have just said, maybe we weren't the people to propose this. Maybe somebody who has a different standing maybe proposed this, but he tried to backtrack it a little bit. Again, it was something that was going to take a lot for them to come up with. All the other upper teams did not have the same opportunities. It would have been a quote-unquote unfair advantage. I look for this to happen maybe in the next year or 2.
803-404-6100. We'll come back. We'll wrap it up. Put a bow on the show this morning as we roll along. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen. It is the early game. Bill Gunner for the Ecton Law Firm. If you've received one of those mean, nasty notices from the IRS, it is time for you to consider calling John Ecton and his team. You actually don't need to consider it. You need to do it. You've got to do it, and you've got to do it quickly. Time is of the essence. Give them a phone call today and get a free consultation. 803-771-9800. Again, that's 803-771-9800. They have a local team dedicated to resolving your income or business tax issues for good, and they're ready to help you, but you have to take initiative. You got to give them a phone call, 803-771-9800, because at the Ecton Law Firm, they understand the challenges you're facing. That's why John Ecton and his team are ready to offer you the peace of mind you deserve, but it starts with a phone call. So call today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you, 803-771-9800.
Boss.
Hey.
What's up, boss?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. What's the damage?
Free.
Free. Well, what about for this?
Free as well.
Free.
All of it free. You want some nachos?
Yeah.
Free too.
All free.
All free.
Free. Can I get 50 of these?
Yeah.
Free.
Free.
What about a drink?
All of it free.
Free.
Have 2 drinks.
Drinks? Whew.
And
all
a hot
free?
dog. Yeah.
Hot dogs free too?
All free. There you go.
Free.
Free.
Sweet.
That's right, Till Nation. This fall in Brooks Stadium, every fan, every game, always free. Free concessions, popcorn, nachos, hot dog, fountain drinks, and water for every fan this fall.
That is the new plan for Coastal Carolina Preston Thorn. Free concessions this year.
What a great idea. What a great gesture to the fans. Everybody talks about how it's so tough to get out to the games, the expenses and all those things. It's just a little token of appreciation for the fans that are going to the games. And I think that's a really cool thing started by athletic director Chance Miller up there. Something that he kind of targeted or pioneered here at a couple of select games here. But I do think it is a token of appreciation from admin to the fans for them coming to the games.
So does concessions where it is a token of appreciation. You're right. And here's the other thing I got. I got a question. Like, how much do people spend on concessions at a game? Any idea? I have zero idea.
Well, people when they go to the concession stand, it depends on how you want to add it up, depending how many people are with you. Do you want to buy a bottle of water for $4? Do you want to buy a thing of nachos for $5? Do you want to buy a hot dog for $6? A cup of soda for $4? A thing that can add up very, very quickly, especially if you have a family with you.
Okay, so it sounds like this is a good relative. Not the other part to this, I have no idea how much the prices are for Coastal Carolina football tickets. I'll give you an example. Like, I know a buddy of mine, he's got Tampa Bay Lightning tickets, and we kind of compare and contrast different ticket prices around. The tickets to get into Lightning are really cheap. Concessions are exceptionally high. I think it's like the Hurricanes are the exact opposite. Tickets are expensive. Concessions are the Carolina Hurricanes are extremely low. So I didn't know. I think it's a lot of things that goes into play here. But you're right. Does it really draw people to the stadium? I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know if it's to draw people to the stadium. It's for the people that go to the stadium, for them to have something available to them if they was like. If they've already tailgated before and they don't want to eat, cool. But you may want a soda. Or you might have a nagging 5-year-old who just wants these nachos that you're trying to tell them no for the 15th time. And you can just walk up there and go get and scan your app and go get them so that your little annoying child can just be quiet for a minute, or maybe you can watch the game in peace. There's a lot of things as to why this could be beneficial to you.
Okay.
Do you want popcorn? Cool, I might get it. There's a lot of things that could happen. That's why I think this is a great idea, and the business numbers will show that. Yes, even if it's a lost leader, it is getting people increasing interest, increasing engagement. And while you're at the concession stand, maybe there's other things that you'll purchase.
Okay, I'm with you. All right, so there's the new plan.
Yeah, because there will be other things available for purchase.
Right.
Not everything is free, but these particular items are. So yeah, it could end up working out.
So you think this maybe get you to purchase, spend a little bit more money on a beverage, is what you're saying?
Yeah, you might buy this beverage instead of that one, or you may buy another one, or you may get this premium product as opposed to one of the free products.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll see how this plays out for Coastal. 803-404-6100. Texter says, I'd spend a lot more on concessions if they were free. I have pregame food and drink because of the insane concession expense. David says, we're going to give you free concessions, but we're going to charge you to enter, park, and leave the stadium.
Well, that's par for the course. It is a business. They are trying to make money. I understand that. That's why I positioned it as a token of appreciation. Hey, you're coming here for dinner? Let me give you some bread for free also, or something. Hey, you want to go to this particular restaurant? Unlimited fries. Will you eat all the fries that we have? No, but it's a token of appreciation from a business.
Also, Monty weighs in, says, just started planning my first ever trip to go see a game at Coastal Carolina. I think that's the other part. Yeah, you draw some people around maybe from here that just want to go watch football for the weekend, willing to pay for a ticket, and now maybe they're a little more interested in going down there. Like, hey, we get free food. We can catch. I mentioned it on a Thursday night. I think it's October 30th. Coastal plays Marshall. Maybe we'll try and do something from down there in Myrtle Beach.
You know, the Atlanta Falcons have a similar deal to this where they have very low concession prices at the Mercedes Dome, and that's something that people always talk to as opposed to, yes, I know I'm paying for parking. Yes, I'm paying for tickets. Yes, it's overpriced. But at least I have this one little thing that makes me feel good about being a customer of this business.
And Matt weighs in, and no, this is they put this out last night. And Matt says, y'all aren't fooling anyone. Free concessions, April Fools. It could be, but I'm going to go with no. I've learned in this day and era never to say never, but no, they put this out actually yesterday. This isn't something they put out this morning. And I also don't think you do this to your fan base and basically say, like, hey, we're doing this.
No,
and then,
that would be such terrible
yeah,
PR.
that would be bad PR. And as Preston mentioned, Chance Miller, the AD down there, now obviously he was behind doing some of this at Colonial Life Arena for some of the basketball games, I think usually in December.
They've done this already. This is something that he feels that's important for him. And he obviously he felt like it worked here for the time that they ran it. No, that would be a bad business move to promise your customers something and then say, ha,
yeah,
we got you.
And put out a video on it, make it look very professional.
I don't think that would be a smart
I think it was last year. Was it last year the Gamecock hockey put out like a what do you want to call it, a GIF or what? I don't know, a picture that they were scheduling Penn State hockey for a Stadium Series game at Williams-Brice and at Happy Valley, and I kind of bought into it at first. I was like, oh, that seems really cool. And then obviously it was not going to happen, so we got let down by that. 803-404-6100. Let's wrap it up here. Tonight, Preston wants to make his proclamation one more time. South Carolina Presbyterian.
Second biggest game of the year.
Second biggest game.
They already played the biggest
Mulligan.
Yeah, they already played the big. Yeah, if we want to do Mulligan, cool. I will do that. If we're taking a Mulligan on a North Carolina game, which they lost, this is the biggest game of the year. If you do not win this game, people have rightful. They would be right within their rights to just say we'll bail out.
Let's listen, Jen. Let's one more time. This is Paul Maneri talking yesterday on the postgame show, clip number 30, talking about the importance of this game tonight.
We've, the last 7 games have been against some of the top teams in the country. You mentioned Arkansas and Tennessee, and then, your midweek game is against North Carolina, who's one of the top teams in the country as well. So, we just need to get out there and win a game. But Presbyterian will not be any walk in the park, I can assure you of that. Of course, I studied them today, and, they're pitching their Friday night guy. Their Friday starters started every Friday up until this past weekend. So, there'll be a challenge there. I'm sure he's their best guy. And, we're going to counter with Tyler Pitzer, who will get his first start of the year, try to get him back on the horse and see if we can't get him pitching well again for us. But we're going to have to battle these guys tomorrow, and nothing to be taken for granted. But obviously, we want to win very badly. I don't care who we're playing against. We need to just get off the schneid and get a win, and hopefully get ourselves a little momentum and some good positive thoughts before heading to Starkville this weekend.
That is the words of Coach Paul Maneri, and you heard him mention at Starkville this weekend. We played the clip earlier of him also talking about the differences between playing the number 1 and number 2 team in the country, Preston, Tennessee, and Arkansas, and now playing Mississippi State this coming weekend, and then that'll be followed by Texas A&M.
Yeah, it's a very interesting concept because we've soothed ourselves with the idea like, oh, those teams are really, really good. Now we're playing teams that are not really, really good. So now maybe it's going to be maybe looking in the mirror and facing reality. Are we a team that's really good, that deserves to be talked about with the upper echelon teams, or are we actually one of these other teams?
And that'll be again tonight, 6:15 pregame, 6:15 pregame, 6:30 first
Better beat
pitch.
the Blue Hose, though.
Yeah, big game tonight. Again, you'll hear it right here, 107.5 the game in Columbia, 100.3 the game in Myrtle Beach, and as of right now, slated for Carolina Calls, by the way. Another chance to hear from Paul Maneri coming up tomorrow night, right after Jay and Elijah here on 107.5 the game. So we got that tonight. A little bit of a break tonight, Preston. No basketball. We talked about it. The women, 5th straight Final Four. We now know the set. Texas on their side of the bracket. We just talked about that. UConn and UCLA. So I'll ask you now, who do you want to see on Friday? UConn or UCLA? Do you want the rematch? Do you want the big, bad UConn? Or do you want UCLA, who kind of upset the apple cart to start the whole season?
I can't answer that question right now. I need to watch them a little bit closer. I don't like Lauren Betts in the post because we don't have a big girl to really handle her. UConn beat us up pretty good. I don't like that matchup. I'll get back to you on that one.
Okay. All right. So we'll have that later on the week. 7 o'clock tip-off for that. Reminder, on Friday, obviously, we've got baseball and we've got basketball. 6:45 pregame for baseball, but that'll be on 98.5 WOMG. The women's basketball Final Four game will be right here on 107.5 the game. Thank you to J.C. Sherbert for joining us today. A lot of football talk. Real handsy, I thought.
Handsy talk today. Also, today they're voting on banning the tush push. Ban the tush push.
Okay.
Ban the tush push. Get it out of here. It's not a football play.
We'll go with that. Y'all have a great day. Bill Gunner for the Mortgage Guru, Jacob Crowder and First Palmetto Bank. Right now, Jacob Crowder's ready to help you. He's waiting on the phone call, 803-719-1005. That's how you can reach out to Jacob, the Mortgage Guru. He helped me several years ago get a good condo right on the lake. But most importantly, what he did was get a great interest rate. See, that's the important thing, knowing what your monthly payments are, how much your down payment is going to be, what the 30-year outlook looks like. You want to make sure that these are the
Yeah, one last look at your traffic and weather for your ride in on this Tuesday morning. A couple accidents to report for Jackson Boulevard and I-77. Highway 1 at Cox Ferry Road. Highway 1 near 378. I-26 eastbound at exit 102. Irmo Drive and North Lake Drive and I-20 westbound at 2 Notch Road. Today, cloudy, but high is going to get up to 76. Tomorrow, cloudy with a high of 80. And Thursday, high of 87 with some clouds as well. It's your traffic and weather in the early game.